Hello everybody and welcome. My name is Eduard Piccoli and I am the Curso C support teacher in your Decisiones de Inversión course this semester with Professor Maximiliano. On this video, I will talk about how to write business reports. Initially, I will discuss some generalities on how to write business reports. Right after that, I will share with you the standard structure of business reports. And finally, I will briefly go over your Monte Carlo case report as part of your final assignments for this course. Let's get started. Generalities. A business report, as you may already know or remember, is generally an assignment in which you are required to study a situation and use a set of theories to provide suggestions on how to improve it. This will in turn allow you to apply business and management theory to a practical situation, demonstrate your analytical reasoning and evaluation skills in identifying and weighing up possible solutions and outcomes. Likewise, to reach conclusions about a problem or issue, and to provide recommendations for future action. Here's an important aspect to pay attention to. A business report is usually brief. This means you're not expected to write it down in linear paragraphs, but rather using bulleted, numbered lists or charts and figures. However, you are sure expected to write full sentences and not just isolated portions in your reports for this course. Please ask Maximiliano to confirm this information. In terms of the structure, business reports generally contain the following sections: an introduction, a discussion, conclusions, and recommendations. Let's talk about the introduction. The purpose of this section is to state the aim or the objective of the report, which may include who has commissioned it, if relevant. You are also expected to outline your analysis procedures or process. This may include noting any key approaches, sources, theories, or frameworks used in your analysis. In addition to that, you are required to provide background information or details relevant to the situation or context, such as a brief overview of historical developments and the definitions of any terms that are not very common or might not be very common for your audience. To summarize the problem and recommend solutions, and finally, to clarify any limitations, restrictions, and or assumptions made in undertaking this research. In the discussion section, you are expected to back up your analysis with ideas, concepts, models, and theoretical information you have studied throughout the course. Generally, it can be appropriate to create different subsections when writing this section. And then in every subsection, you can follow this structure because it might be useful for you to organize the information and demonstrate the process you use to carry out this analysis. So everything here deals with identifying. Initially, identify the problem. For example, the problem involves a lack of coordination at a top level management. Then identify the causes. This is caused by a lack of organizational skills and a lack of assistance from support people. The symptoms. As a result, the department is constantly in a state of flux with no knowledge of where it should be heading to. Then identify the theory, approach, or key framework used to analyze the problem. For example, systems theory is used to analyze the cause and effect of lack of coordination at top level management and identify possible solutions or discuss them. In terms of the conclusions, they are often presented in bullet points lists, but it is advisable and much more appropriate to present them as a statement in a paragraph form that synthesizes all discussion points, as you can see here in this first image. In addition to that, it is important to arrange each point in order of importance rather than necessarily in the order found in your discussion. Make sure that you match each point in sequence with the list of recommendations, and that you write each conclusion using the present tense, and always aim or strive or look for specificity and clarity in your statements. Sometimes several sources mention that you might be asked to combine your recommendation and conclusion section. Again, you can ask Maximiliano or the monitor in the course to clarify this information for you for the purposes of this class. In terms of the recommendations as well as the conclusions, they are often written in bullet points lists. But again, it is important for you to show your arguing skills, so it is advisable to write them down in a linear paragraph. These recommendations should be written in the way of action-oriented processes. Action-oriented processes that allow the company or the final readers of this report to make decisions on how to improve the course of action in the company or the situation. Another important aspect is that you write them with a realistic and feasible perspective. It means that they are connected to the identified needs and constraints of the client or the situation or the company, and within the current social, economic, and political climate. In this particular case, you are highly encouraged to write the recommendations in the future tense as appropriate, and again, to look for clarity and conciseness. Some of the sources recommend to combine the recommendations and conclusions, so this time is better to ask for clarification with Maximiliano and the monitor in the course in order to know what exactly you're expected to do with these two sections. Based on the guidelines you have been given on your course program, in this report, you are expected to write it for a very busy board of directors. Consequently, it must be very well written and to the point. The purpose is to write down a clear set of recommendations on how to proceed for the Monte Carlo case problem. And in terms of the other parts of the report, you are expected to provide a title, again, to have this context or introduction where you mention explicitly the aspects of the case and the facts that are to be reported. Alternative solutions and analysis, which can be matched to the discussion part that I mentioned before. Recommendations, references if used, and other recommendations, perhaps conclusions in this particular case. And this should be 2 pages long. Again, please ask Maximiliano to confirm this information. Thank you very much. Remember that if you have further questions, you can reach me at edpiccoli10@uniandesedu.co, and I will always be more than glad to help you clear out any doubts. Have a good time. Let's keep in touch.